sorry. The first about 20 minutes to 30 minutes is kind of a presentation format, just to give you an overview of no code and like how wide it is and what the possibilities are in the space. And also some misconceptions too, because the term no code is not entirely accurate. And then the last maybe hour or so, we are going to build an AI application using no code. So on I also go by Mr. Hackathon. I participate or used to participate in many hackathons, won many hackathons, and that's what I built my reputation on. In this presentation, obviously, we're going to go over building software without coding. This is mainly designed for beginners, so maybe you know some of this, maybe you don't, but it's good to also reinforce your learning. I started my journey actually in the no-code space. I started my journey in the code space a very long time ago. If you want to consider HTML and CSS coding, that's where I started my journey. There was a platform called MySpace, which was the Facebook before Facebook, and you could customize the layouts or your profile layouts. And I was born and raised in London, and here in London, in school, people would pay other people to customize their layouts, and I wanted money. And so I taught myself how to actually create some of these layouts and get money by creating layouts on MySpace. And then from there, I learned JavaScript. Obviously, many years later, I ended up learning TypeScript, Python, and Java. But I always wanted to find more efficient ways to build things. When I was very young, during the summers, I was sent to a summer camp. And at this summer camp, I would learn Adobe Dreamweaver, which was a tool for building websites using a visual interface. So it's mainly a drag and drop tool for building websites. And this, again, was like a version of what we see today in the no-code space. Many years later, I became an international athlete. I was a basketball player, and I got a scholarship to go to school in the United States. And I was a student athlete in the United States. The student part of that student athlete was an architecture and construction student. So I was always trying to find ways to combine my creativity with like a practical knowledge of how things work, or a practical feel of how things work. When I actually went into the field and I graduated, I became something called a virtual design construction engineer. And what I basically did is a lot of research and development in the architecture and construction industry. And I was dealing with drones, 3D printers, augmented reality, and virtual reality. And I was in this weird, I was doing a lot of technical stuff for big companies, Blue Origin, Mercedes, Microsoft, huge universities. But it was a blend of code and code. I'm also a content creator and have been a content creator for makeup, previously mentioned, startups and accelerators, and I create content for other platforms too, such as 100 Days of No Code, which we will go over in a little bit. To frame this whole conversation, talk about what the problem is in actually developing software and why no code is a huge thing right now. I'll talk about different technology stacks within the no code space, different career opportunities, communities, and then we'll go on to actually build an application. So historically, software has been expensive, it's been especially secure, and it's been extremely time consuming. Maybe even 40 years ago, it was really exclusive. It was hard to get servers. It was hard to get the equipment. Cost has dropped dramatically. And a part of that trend, no code has emerged. So no code is democratizing creating Chrome extensions, creating voice applications, creating any software you can imagine. This is what no code is allowing you to do cheaper. More people can do it. To summarize the term no code, It's an umbrella term used to describe products that enable users to develop minimum coding ability. There's a key here with the minimum coding ability or minimum code, because there are tools that allow you to use code, such as Flutterflow. We won't be going over Flutterflow, but I will show you Flutterflow briefly, that allows you to export Flutter code. And there's different tools that allow you to actually export the code or import the code, but primarily it's working visually. Technologies in the space. The biggest no code tool you're probably familiar with is WordPress. Many people say WordPress is extremely complicated, but almost 80% of companies in the world use WordPress in some way or form. But there are many other website builders. Word website builder. There's Wix, there's Squarespace. You might have heard of Webflow, which is huge right now. This is the logo. You might have heard of Bubble. Again, that's a huge. There's many websites, build websites, and when we get into the careers, you'll find ways that you can actually start earning money creating websites or creating software without coding. Automation tools. So one way to create automations with code is to use Python, but fortunately, there's automation that allow you to do web scraping, that allow you to automate tweets and to automate different applications and connect applications using no code. We're going to actually do this today, and this is how we're going to create our AI application using an automation tool. Virtual and augmented reality. If you're familiar with Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, they all have filters, and some of them have filters that have relatively complex. You don't have to code to actually create that complex logic and functionality. Each of them have their own AR, VR platforms. And there's also other AR, VR platforms where you can create augmented and virtual reality experiences. Gaming. If you want to create games, many people think you have, I think the language is C++, maybe. I can't remember what the language is to make games. Actually have to learn that. It helps, but you can use a tool called BuildBots. You can use a tool called FlowLab to create Android or iOS games that are really, really beautiful and work. You've been in the last couple of years, it's gone really, really crazy, and it's become really popular. To create, you don't have to use Solidity and Rust. There's tools like OpenZeppelin. There's tools like Mintgate to create Mint sites. There's different tools that you can use to components of the Web3 ecosystem and to create use cases for your local region or use cases for social impact. Chatbots and voice applications. You can create WhatsApp bots, you can create Facebook bots using Landflow or Landbot or VoiceFlow. Maybe you're a developer and you want to connect it to some backend database, but you're maybe struggling with backend and how it works. There's tools that allow you to make it really, really easy to establish the backend data with minimum coding or technical ability. Applications. So I'm going to show you some applications I made and some mobile applications I made, and you can create native applications using no code tool too. Before we go on, does anyone have any questions? If not, I'll just continue going. Careers and opportunities. Because the demand for no code is increasing significantly, there's nowhere near enough Bubble developers or Webflow developers or just people that know how to use no code in general. And this is providing a very, very unique opportunity for developers. Agencies. So they're getting the work and they're hiring freelance developers, or they're outsourcing to freelance developers. And this is the way they're managing their no code agency. Maybe you're a founder or you're you aspire to be a founder, and you have two paths. If you want to bootstrap a company, that means you want to build some kind of startup or company or offering. You want to generate revenue and you want to invest that revenue back into growing the company and paying salaries and everything you have to pay. You can use no code to do that. No code significantly reduces the effort and the cost to develop software or develop an application that you can then sell. VC-backed company. There's many people in the space that are using no code to create an MVP that's essentially the first version of their application, and then using that to gain some traction to prove there is actually demand for the thing they're creating, to then go to venture capital investors and say, invest in me. Or you can create content and become an instructor. So this is something I love to do. I love to teach. I love to create content. I do create applications too, but I love to create content as well. Or you could be a hobbyist. You don't have to feel like you have to monetize your skills. I love making no code applications. I find it as a nice creative activity for me, and it communities. So I made a dedicated section for communities because communities have really helped me in the no code space, and I believe they can really help you too. So On Deck is a huge community of innovators and creators across the world. I went through it of January 2021. But you'll find lots of On Deck fellows that will really go a long way to help you. 100 days of no code. I'm not sure if you've heard 100 days of, but this is a challenge to do micro projects for 100 days. So it teaches you no code. You go through a cohort of other people that are on 100 days of no code with you. Say you're completing it at the same time. You can help each other, and you can work with each other, and also people that have already completed it, like myself, can come and help you. Makerpad.co is a great resource for no code content. So is Indie Hackers. Indie Hackers is about people. Some people are raising venture capital. Some people are bootstrapping a company. There's lots of very good content on Indie Hackers. And Product Hunt is a community of people launching and marketing their products. So projects. We're going to go over some of the projects that I've created and what I use to create them. So probably the most popular is Missing Black People. So Missing Black People is a tech-enabled company that has automations to curate resources and curate really appeals from the internet, from Twitter, and it puts it on the and it amplifies the appeals, sending it to partners, media outlets, and different organizations. This was featured in news outlets across the world and has been really helpful for a lot of people. Crypto Scan Detector, that is a Chrome extension, has slightly over 100 users. This was built using a tool called Builder, and again, this was a tool using a tool that allows you to export the code. I exported the code and then I uploaded it to create an actual Chrome extension from it. This was previously in the App Store and the Google Play Store. It was a directory for Web3 resources. It had over 230 resources. And I will show you one more. So we're not going to create an exact application like this today, but this is a product review generator using AI. So if we go to the try free, let's just type in Stripe. And all you have to do is select 3 words, type your email address, and then click generate. And what you can see, it generates a review for you. You can just click copy, and if you're going to paste it to Twitter or lots of different places, you could do that. So we're going to create some kind of AI application like this, but really it's going to be more a mobile app. So before we start, does anybody have any questions? Just on the presentation or no code in general? Okay. So I'll assume no one has any questions, so I'll just keep going.
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, my question. Website you just visited right now, and you generated some strings. So, what are the strings? Can we use for what? Can we use them to do?
I didn't. I missed. You have a lot of background noise, so I missed the actual question. So you said, what are the?
Yeah, I said the website you visited. Website, you generated some strings
Yeah.
there. So, what are we going to use those strings for?
So in this particular case, for example, I describe. So this is one of the businesses that pay for this. So we click essential. We say it's original. We say it's outstanding. Type our email address. And so we can see there is, so we can actually, if I click here, for Twitter, if I actually go back, if I post on select their other link that I have, this is a review platform, so I can add a review here, generated through my app. Sometimes people have Google reviews right here. G2 is another platform that they have for. So I would have to log into G2, but I can leave a review for Scribe on G2. So it's a review generator. You will see reviews on Amazon. You'll see reviews on eBay, lots of different platforms. It's to generate reviews for these platforms. We're going to use the same technology, but we're not going to create the same app. So to do this, we're going to use a couple things. The first thing we're going to do is use OpenAI. OpenAI is very, very, very cheap for what it's giving you. And we're going to use their API. So you can create an account for free. You don't have to pay anything. And what we're going to do is I didn't create a model from scratch for this tutorial. So I'm going to use their kind of pre-made models for this. And there's different things we can do. So the pre-made models, you can use it code. If we just click on that, you can give it a prompt. The way it works is you give it a prompt, you send it to the AI, and the AI gives you a response. We're going to use this one for now. We're going to give it a prompt, and we're going to say, hey, we want you to summarize this. And this is what this is one of the use cases we're going to build. If we have more time, we maybe might do some other ones, such as essay outline, such as the VR fitness idea generator. So idea generator, we might do another, but we're going to focus on this summarize for a second grader first. And you can make your own models here. So you can make your own AI models, but that would be a whole nother to show you how to do that. So we're going to use this technology just to show you how this works. So here we have, this is something called a prompt. This is the variable, the user input, that's right here. And if we click it, we can actually have an example of what the response data would be. If I give it another one, let's say quantum computing, I'm just going to grab some random text from some. If anyone has any suggestions of what random, maybe there's a textbook that you want me to pull. If I give it something like this, and I'll ask it to summarize this for a second grade student, it's going to summarize it. And we're going to build something like this, but we're going to build it in an actual app. To create our front end, what we're going to use is this tool called Glide. You Glide because it's one of the easiest to use. It's not the most flexible. It's free and easy. And you'll see where it's not a little bit later. We're going to help us make API requests without coding. All we have to do is drag and drop to make requests. And we're going to use a tool called Airtable to store our data. So one place we want to start is Airtable. And what I'm going to do here is start to create my table. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to name the table summary. And I'm going to name like the whole project, Glide AI tutorial. Just make sure I name that correctly. And so I'm going to delete some of these because I don't need some of these columns. The first one I'm going to add is going to be an email. And I want that to be the user's email. So I'm just going to, I could call it user too, but it's not that big a deal. The next thing I want to add is something called a created time. So I know when this is actually being created. I need this for my automation. And what I want here is, I'm calling it a completion, but it's basically the result, the AI generation. So that would be this. This is going to be our completion that we're going to display to the user. What we also need is this. So we need this, and this is called a prompt. So I'm going to type prompt here. Also, I'm going to add another column called text. And I'll show you why I'm doing that a little bit later. And just making sure this is right. Okay. So I added another prompt called text. I might not need this, but we'll see. We'll see in a very short while if I'll need this or not. And so this prompt is going to be this entire thing. What this text will be is this right here. So we have the basis for our backend data. What we need to do is start to build our front end. So just for the sake of time and for the sake of like, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to add the first row just to show you what this looks like. Only doing this for the first row so we can initialize the data. And prompt. We have our first row. I'm going to just remove these rows So we have our first row. This helps us initialize the data. Now we're going to go to Glide and create our front end. So we start by creating a new project. You can see all the projects that I've created. I'm calling this Glide AI tutorial, I think. We're going to create a mobile app. What we're going to do is use Airtable as our base. So it allows us to use Google Sheets, its native Glide tables, or Excel. I'm going to call this Glide AI tutorial. I think that's the name that we gave it. Now we're going to create app. So what you should see immediately is immediately loaded the one row that we have straight away. It's given us a front end for this immediately. And when we click on it, it shows us the details. There's so much customization we can do here. On the left, we can customize the menu, which we're going to do. We can customize what we actually see on the screen. On the right, we can do the same. We can add customize, change the format of this. So we're going to start doing that. What I want to change the actual format of this. So I'm going to go to edit list. Now, this is just basically a list that you can see here. And right here, you have an image mapping to the completion, and we have no image. So we're just going to remove that. We have details, and we don't want that. We just want to show the prompts here. One of the great things about no code is you can add logic really easily without coding. And we're going to do this in more complexity in a little bit. But what you can see here is I can add a row, I can compose an email, I can delete a row, I can send an email, show particular screen, show the sign up screen, and connect it to a webhook. And what we want to do here is we actually skipped a step. We want to create a form that takes a user input. So what I'm going to turn this page into is an actual form. So to do that, I'm going to change the style. And I don't want any of these. I want the detail screen. And I'm going to remove all this information. And what I'm going to do is change the label before I add components to form. I can change the icon to this plus sign. As you can see, it changed right here at the bottom. And now what I want to do is to take a user input. So all I have to do to add components on a detail screen is I have to have a detail screen. I just select right here and it opens all these different components. I can add a buy button. I can add a link. I can add a map. I can add image, audio, video, and make all of this dynamic. I can add a web embed, lots of different things. But what I do actually want to add is just a text entry. And my text entry, I don't want it to say this bit. I just want text. I just want the raw text. So I'm going to go back. Let me just move that one over there. I'm going to go back. I prompt. The placeholder is going to be enter the text you want to summarize. I can change the minimum length and maximum length. And the next thing I want to do is add a button to be able to send that to a webhook. So I have an input and I have a button, so I can send this data to a webhook. So OpenAPI can process the information and it can summarize the information and send it back to our database. So we're going to use another tool to do that. We adjustments here. So I want to change that from prompt to something like text. I'm not sure. Text might be good. And to do next is we need to send it to, because as you can see, when I change the action to webhook, it's asking me for a webhook URL, and I need a URL to send it to. So we're going to create make. So make is for applications together. So if you wanted to connect Google to TikTok, and every time uploaded to Google Drive is posted to TikTok, you could do that here. Or like there's so many different automations you can do. It's literally the possibilities are endless when it comes to automating things. So we are going to create a new automation. I'm going to go to a folder I have. And in make, an automation is called a scenario. And one of the first things I want to do is add a webhook and add a custom webhook that triggers and it receives data. So this is where I'm going to send the form data from Glide to. And I'm going to call this Glide AI tutorial. And here you can see it's given me a webhook address. When I go back now, I can add a new webhook and I can say make webhook. And I can type my URL here. So I have my URL, but I also have to add values. So I'm going to send the text. And that is going to be this. I'm also going to send the email, which is going to be the user email, user profile email. And those are the only two bits of information that I'm going to send in my webhook for now, I believe. Text, email, yeah. So that's all I'm going to send for now. And I might have to come back and edit this slightly later. So what I want to do, I want to teach this webhook what type of data it's going to receive. So I'm just going to run this once. And as you can see, it's waiting for data now. I click submit. And as you can see now, it's completed. It's received the data. And when we inspect this, we can see it received data. We can see the output. It received email and it received my email and it knows its types of string, and it received the text. It knows its types of string and it knows its value. Perfect. What we need to do next is send that to OpenAI. So OpenAI have an integration. You can generate AI images through here. You can do lots of really interesting things through here. I'm going to do create a completion because that's what we want to do. We have to select a model. I'm not going to go too much into the details of what the models mean, but the model we want to select is Text DaVinci 3. We're going to give it a prompt. So this is a very important part. I think hopefully you can remember here, or if we go back here, this entire thing is a prompt and we need this entire thing. What the user has input is just this here. The user doesn't know to write this. And so what we're going to do in our request, we're just going to write that for them. And then we're going to use the variable that the user has created and sent. And this is what we're sending to OpenAI. We're going to set max tokens to 200. Again, I'm not going to go too much into the details of what these mean because it might overcomplicate like this beginner introduction. But this should be fine if you copy this and just leave it like that. It should be fine. And so now, when the user wants to summarize some text, maybe you want to summarize a textbook or something you've seen on the internet for easy understanding, you come to the app, you type that in, or you copy and paste it there. You click submit. It's going to send it to our webhook. We're going to trigger and send it to OpenAI. And the last thing we want to do is send the result to Airtable, our backend database. So we want it to create a record in Airtable. We're going to find our base. I think it's Glide AI tutorial. We're going to select the summaries table. We know our prompt is going to be, if we find it, we might actually leave that. We might actually leave that bit out. For now, we're going to edit it directly in the backend. The text is going to be this. The completion is the result that OpenAI did. So it's under choices and it's text. The email is going to be this user email right here. And all, as you can see, it's really easy to be able to look at arrays and look at collections and to select what you want. So this is our automation. So if we actually run that, what we should see is I send that, and you can see it working. It's going through, and we actually go to our backend database. We can see it did what we wanted it to do. The only thing that's missing is the prompt, and I like to keep the prompt here just so I know what the prompt was. And what we're going to have to do here is create a formula. So I might actually have to go to another project just to recall the formula that I want to have. Okay. So to create a formula, I'm going to use this concatenate string. We are then, if I can recall, going to use this top string. And again, this is purposes, so we know what the prompt actually was. And then we're going to use the variable text. And that should be fine. So if I save that, so what you can see here is that it saved the entire prompt here. This is just, again, this is just for documentation purposes. So if I go back, the last thing we need to do is actually display this information to the user. So now what we know is that we can input text, send it there, it's going to summarize, and it's going to send it to our backend database. But we need to show the user this backend database. We need to be able to show them the actual result. And so what we're going to do, we're going to remove this users tab, and we're going to call this tab summaries. As you can see, it's already started display the data. What we want to do is what we did at the beginning. Remove that. We're going to remove that. And I'm just going to clean what I want to do is allow text wrapping. Do I want to allow text wrapping? No. We'll leave it like that. And so now we can see the summaries. We probably want to change this icon. We can see the summaries. When they click on it, they can see their prompt. and then they can also see the completion. So we want to clean this up a little bit because this is like extremely messy. So I want to remove the user's email. The completion's good. And I'm going to change this from completion to text. Okay for now, because this is just a basic app. So what we can see here, when we click on it, we can see the text the user's input, or the user can see the text they've input. They can see the summarization, and they can see the date that it was created. Anything we want to do here that's not currently here is right now it's showing all users everything in our database, and we don't want that. We want to limit them to see only what's their information. And what's their information is everything that has email here is theirs. So what is go to options, and we want to filter data, and we want to filter where the email is the user profile email. So we can see that here. So we're actually going to remove this and start fresh. So when we remove that, we should see in a minute, or maybe if I just refresh, all the data disappear because we removed the data from the back end. So when we go here, oh, it's still pulling data from somewhere. Oh, I think it's actually pulling the data. So it needs some time to refresh, but it hasn't. We need to give it some time to refresh, but what we're going to do now is put some other text and just show let's see what it comes up. So I'm just gonna find some other text. We go to Wikipedia. So here we have particle physics. So we type oh, for some reason this disappeared. I think I pressed something on my keyboard to remove it. Okay, so we might have to put this text box again. Text entry. So if we click submit on this, or you could remove it and add something else, but we're just going to click submit. What you would see is this processing is added to the Airtable. You can see it's added to Airtable. When we go back and we go to summaries, you'll see sexy. The text completion, we do have to give it some time to load. Especially since it's not public. And we can see the completion there. We can see this is the text the user input, and this is the completion. This is, I say completion, but this is how it summarized it. Particle physics studies the particles and forces of the universe, like protons, neutrons, electrons, and the forces that hold them together. So this is our app. So again, because we made some adjustments, we do want to go back, move that, and have that like that. So we have made an AI application without coding for users to be able to actually access this. We have to publish it. I want to go through the publishing process now. You can see I just changed the view, so now it's an Android view. And what we want to do just before we publish it is we want to configure some of the settings. So I am going to change this. You want to give it an icon, you can either upload an icon, you can just use one of these icons. You might want to write a description. Change the theme. So we're going to leave it as that. And here's where some of the pro features kick in. So this is not responsive to tablet devices or desktop devices. This is exclusively for mobile devices. And you'll see what that looks like a little bit when I open it on my desktop. To make it responsive, you would have to upgrade to the Pro version. We are going to make this public with email. We're going to allow users to sign in with Google. Secondly, the sign-in screen. So we can customize the greeting, the welcome. We can customize this text here. But to actually add an image in the background or to add a logo up here, we then would have to upgrade to the Pro version. Lastly, if I just type Glide AI, we want to publish. We only get the chance to publish at a subdomain of Glide. If you want to publish at your own domain, you have to upgrade to the Pro version. So I click publish. And now we can use this. This is what it looks like on a desktop device. One thing I do want to do is here, this is running on demand right now. I need to actually turn this on to just run automatically. So I go back. I'm just going to turn this on. So now it's running automatically. I'm going to sign into my app. And see, I can put my text. I can grab text from somewhere else. Let's say I copy it from the internet, or I copy it from a textbook or somewhere. And let's just submit. And what we should see, if we go back, we see that it's updated here, 11:07. 11:07 is the time now. And we will see shortly that it updates right here. So this is our AI application. You can actually visit this at glideai.glideapp.io. And I'm just going to make sure everything is connected properly because it still hasn't loaded. Does anybody have any questions? Or is there anything else anybody would like to see? Hello? Can every-
Yes, I can hear you.
Is there anything else anybody would like to see on AI
Uh,
or on code, or any questions anybody has?
I can't think of any question for now. This is there any task we can do so that this thing you do can so that we can be able to do it on our own?
Yeah, so
So
this is recorded, so you'll be able to watch this back, and you can ask me questions on social media or email, and I'm pretty responsive.
okay. Hello. Hello. Yeah. My question is this how user will be using the app? I thought it's something that we will deploy as an Android application.
So it can, so depend. It all depends. So if I share my screen again, so this is a progressive web app, but if you wanted to make it an Android, you would use a tool called like this. Activator. You would use a tool called this, Nativator, to put it into a wrapper. Or you would have to use a different tool. So I showed you the most easiest tool to use, which is Glide, which is one of the easiest tools to use. I generally use a tool called Adalo, which allows you to deploy directly to the Google Play Store and the App Store. You'll do a very similar process to what we just did. You just basically data collections and create a webhook and an API call. If I show you this app, simple app is a dating app, and this app is published to the Android store, as you can see. And this is I published this a year ago, so I didn't publish this to the Apple store, just the Android store. And then you have another tool. So publish directly to the App Store. You can publish this to the Google, or you can export the code. But I just showed you the easiest one to use, which is this. Do you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, no question for now. So when are we going to meet again?
I mean, it's up to you guys. It's Christmas. We can schedule something in January, but and also you might want to discuss what kind of track you want to do. So, for example, let me. Can you actually see my entire desktop right now?
Yes.
Okay. So, like I mentioned, there's lots of different, or there's lots of different things in the no code space. BuildBots is a gaming tool. Maybe as an organization, launch. If I launch this, let's see. If I launch this here, this tool allows you to create games, and I could show you how to do that. We're going to give this some time to load and open up something else. Oh. It won't let me open anything else. So we'll have to wait. BuildBots is a tool for creating games. Maybe the community is more interested in creating games. And if we actually play, we could create. Loud, but you get the point. This is a way you would code in. If I exit that, maybe you want to do more machine learning and type technology. Here's a would be interesting, especially if you're in care. So this is an AI no-code tool that allows you to analyze visual data. So what I've done here is I trained the AI to recognize pneumonia from X-ray scans. So if you upload an X-ray scan, it will be able to detect whether or not this patient has pneumonia. Again, done with no code, 87%. So it highlights on what the community want to do. I've also done this. To open. I have any previous projects here. One of these. So this is how you create augmented reality filters for Snapchat. So we're going to give that some time to open. And again, this is done without coding, no code. You can add complex logic to it. If you want to add complex logic to it, you can add JavaScript to it. If you want to add JavaScript to it, we just have to give it some time to load. Okay. So yeah, this is an example of what the way it looks like. And like we would do stuff like change. If I go here, my computer's moving a bit slow. But this is the point. There's lots of different things we could do. As the community, you'd have to figure out what most interests you. Like to do. We can applications. We can do Chrome extensions. We can do voice applications. You name it. We can make WhatsApp chatbots. So it's on the community what you would like to do. So you have my calendar. We can book something in January, and if you have anything at the top of your mind that you want to explore, we can explore it. Does that make sense?